Hi, here's a short video on formatting strings for numeric output in Python. So first let's define some constants. Pi, Avogadro's number, 1 atmosphere, Boltzmann constant, gas constant. There's 3 different kinds of formatting in Python, but one of the best and newest is this formatted string. So it has the following syntax. So we start with the character F, that's important, and then the quoted string, some text, value of the variable is inserted here. So this curly brackets var, that's the special part. And any variable or Python expression that you put here is going to become part of the string. And you can assign this string to a variable, or you can use this string literal directly in a print statement. Okay. So the variable here, we'll show some examples in a second, but the variable can just be variable or expression. If you want to format it, then you would add a colon and then a format string. And the format string has the following form. It can be a lot more complicated than this, but the basics that are commonly used are w.pt, where w represents the width of the field, then a dot for like a floating point decimal place, and then the precision, how many digits you want after the decimal, and then t for type, which is optional. So the different types, E for scientific, F for float, floating point number, D for an integer, and S for a string. And okay, so let's have a look at these. So print, here I just added some space to make some visual room. Formatted string, and then NA equals, and then we give the name of the variable that we defined before, colon 20.7E. So this is going to give us a field 20 characters wide, floating point with 7 digits after the decimal place, and we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, E for scientific notation. And then so this curly brace is embedded in the string, and that gets the number that's output, and then you can have following characters before, after, or characters before. And we've done 3 different types here. The exponential, scientific notation, a floating point, 101.325, and integer decimal notation here, 8314. Okay, so you can see by default it's going to write justify and pad with spaces. So we can change the justification with the character left arrow, right arrow, and this little hat circumflex. And these go right before the colon. So here's an example of that. So if we just put the justification character right before the colon, then we can change whether it's left justified, right justified, or centered in the field. Sometimes we want to pad with a fill character. So suppose we wanted to fill all the empty spaces with some character. We can put that character right before the right after the colon and before any kind of justification symbol here. So, and that justification symbol isn't, oops, need to go back and rerun these cells. Let's do that. Good. And we'll come back down here. Okay. So that fill character is clearly not required. If you put it in, it's there. If you don't, it's not. So there's a whole bunch of other formatting options you can use. If you go to the Python reference, it'll show you this generic specification and a bunch of different options. So for example, if you include a plus sign, then you can force a sign to be present. So let's try that out. If we put in here plus, then it'll force a plus sign. And if NA is, whoops, if this NA is negative, then it'll be a negative. So the plus doesn't mean a plus sign, it means put the sign character in there. And it'll either be a plus or a minus. A bunch of other options you can do, but the 95% of what you use on a day-to-day basis really does follow this thing. W.pt, so that's the thing to memorize. Width, dot, precision, and the type. E for scientific, F for floating point, S for a string. D, you'd think it would be like an integer or I or something, but that's reserved for a different use. Okay, so that's a quick introduction, and let's see, there are a couple of links here that you can get to. A whole bunch of useful links for getting a lot more information about string formatting in Python. And two other methods. There's the % formatting method and an older str.format approach, but I believe this newer method is much simpler, easier to understand, easier to use. And that's all.